evening and welcome to Meticulous Moments. My name is Juanita Kapp. You can reach me at meticulousmacarons@gmail.com or find me on LinkedIn. Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the globe, I've had the wonderful privilege to meet a wide array of fantastic individuals. These individuals have truly touched my life in so many positive ways. Amongst this group of people, there are authors, public speakers, life coaches, poets, leaders, and visionaries. They are the unsung heroes of our time. Therefore, I decided to start the Meticulous Moments movement out of a sense of my gratitude. It is my way of giving back to the community. Let us share and reshare their stories in an effort to build a better society. Good day everyone and welcome to Meticulous Moments, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. Today we have the wonderful privilege of spending time with the amazing Mark Cox. A little bit more about Mark. Mark Cox has been involved with owning martial arts schools for 40 years. He has produced over 700 black belts. He brings a lifetime of experiences on and off the mat. His wisdom and life lessons learned from teaching, coaching, mentoring, and competing has contributed to his book, Beyond the Mat. Mark Cox holds several black belts: 8th Dan in Tang Soo Do, the Chuck Norris system, 4th Dan in Krav Maga, 1st Dan in Hapkido, purple belt in Sergio Machado Jiu-Jitsu style. Mark Cox brings his experience to life as a best-selling author, motivational speaker, and he still teaches his students that grit and grind will produce growth in your life. He brings a balance of humor and real talk to the table, meeting people where they are in life and helping them navigate a positive outcome in life experiences. My goodness, I have such valuable feedback. I was also on Mark Cox's podcast the other day, Real Talk with Mark Cox, and it was such an enlivening experience. Mark speaks from the heart. Mark is authentic. He lives and breathes integrity. He builds up the lives of everyone he meets, and he is just in general a phenomenal human being. I am so blessed to know Mark and to call him my friend. Thank you, Mark, for a wonderful session. I truly enjoyed it. You really imparted so much wisdom into my life, things that I will now use to elevate others. And with that, I ask the audience to sit back, enjoy, relax this wonderful session with us. Let us celebrate our very special, anointed, wonderful leader, Mark Cox. Welcome, Mark. Good day, Meticulous Moments audience. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another enlivening session here at the Meticulous Moments podcast, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And today we have the wonderful privilege of spending time with the amazing Mark Cox. Good morning, Mark, or good evening to you. How are you?
Right, it's good morning to you. It's 10:30 at night for me, so I'm winding down while you're getting up.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Technology is just phenomenal. I mean, for us to be so, I think it's thousands of kilometers apart, and yet we can share the Zoom room.
Yeah, I know. It's always been amazing to me that we can do that. Be on the other side of the country, and it's like we're in each other's backyard. It's pretty amazing.
It's amazing. I want to thank you for making time for our audience today. And, we've been in the same Zoom rooms. I'm sure we've been in breakout rooms together as well. We belong to the same leadership groups, and a lovely opportunity to be on your podcast. Thank you so much for that. And I feel like I've known you, for quite longer than I really have. So I want to ask you, I know you. I feel like I know you. We've conversed. We've spoken, but would you like to introduce yourself to the audience for the members that are not acquainted with you yet?
Sure. Yeah, sure. I'll be glad to. My name is Mark Cox. She's correct. I've been part of the CLA and the AMA, and the reason this all came about this year is I was writing. I decided to write a book this year about my, my lessons beyond teaching martial arts off the mat, and I've owned a school now my main school I've had, I have two schools. One is I've had for almost 35 years, and the other one I've had for about 7 years now. A smaller school in another districts. I have about 10 or 12 people that work underneath me that I have promoted, and then now they have their own schools, and I kind of help them with their leadership and how to run their schools. And I've been doing martial arts since I was in my 20s. And so, I still get after it. And I wish I'd have done it even when I was younger, but it's been a life-changing adventure for me. And I wouldn't trade any of all the positive and all the negatives that go with it. I wouldn't trade any of it.
It's been a journey. It's been a journey. That's so wonderful to hear. What I love to see is that you really uplift and upbuild and help others also, to achieve their dreams. And yes, I agree. I mean, martial arts changes our lives so much. I started in my 30s, my late 30s, and I wish I had started when I was a child. In our day, it was uncommon for females to do karate in our culture. So I went to my mom. There was a girl in my class that, she did karate, and she did JKA. And I went to my mom and I said, I also want to do karate. And my mom said, there is no way. It's something that guys do. Only boys and men do karate. You are tomboy enough already. I'm not going to enforce that. So I waited until my 30s. But yes, it's been a lovely journey to hear that you have been doing it so long and that you're still happy doing it and that you want to continue is just amazing. I want to ask you, what brought you to the martial arts space? What was the pull towards martial arts?
That's a good question. I mean, people ask me this quite often, how I kind of got started, right? And so I've always been a super competitive dude, and I've always been kind of a naturally tough guy. You know what I mean? If that's what you want to call it, or that's what at least that's what I thought I was until I got my bell rung a few times in the martial arts. I realized I wasn't the baddest boy in the room, but I didn't take martial arts to, because I didn't have self-confidence and all that kind of stuff. Well, at least I didn't think I did. And I took it because I thought it's going to make me even more tougher than what I thought I was. And my brother's the one that kind of got me started. I'm 8 years older than my brother, and my brother's getting ready to go into high school. And he's not built quite like I am. You know what I mean? I'm the weightlifter, the big guy, and played football.
Muscular. Yeah.
And he was a skinnier kid, and I was his protector. But he started taking class, and he came home, and he's talking about he's learning some self-defense, and he says, Mark, I can get out of your bear hug. And I said, no, you can't. And I picked him up right up off his feet. And I was squeezing him for everything he had, and he headbutts me this way. Right? And just my nose just exploded with blood. And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And so that's how I started. That's how I actually started the martial arts. Believe it or not, I do Tong Soo Do, which is the Chuck Norris system. That's where I started. And, I've since done Krav Maga, and now in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. My school teaches all those, but my main art was Tong Soo Do. And
fantastic.
When I started, I kind of really once I started, I was like, man, the judo thing kind of looks really fun to me, but I couldn't really find a judo school. And so I stuck with Tong Soo Do and my instructor, and, here I am today with close to 700 black belts underneath me now in my 35 years of doing it.
My goodness. And all of that started with a bear hug.
With a bear hug and a headbutt. That's how it all started. Let me tell
you, God really works in mysterious ways.
He does. I had such an ego when I was a younger guy anyway, and I thought, I just thought, what, this is just going to make me even better than what I am. But boy, I tell you, in the martial arts world, you are sometimes you're, I say this all the time. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, and sometimes you're the wood. So
yes. Oh my goodness! No, I can relate to that absolutely. We have a view of martial arts, and then when we start it, it's really something that shapes and molds us and changes us and develops us continually. And I love the process, but yes, sometimes the process is painful. I want to ask you, Mark, what core values, stand out for you? There are things that you teach. I'm sure with your Tong Sudo, there are certain core values that you teach on. What do you like to focus on when you work with the students?
Well, we have a core value, right? We have courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit, right? So we have these five core things that we talk about, and we talk about, I shall observe the tenets of Tong Sudo. I shall respect instructors and seniors. I will never misuse Tong Sudo. I will be a freedom and justice, and I'll build a more peaceful world. So we take these five things: courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit, and we start instilling them when they're 3 years old, right? Courtesy, what does that mean? You treat people like you want to be treated. Integrity means you don't lie. You're a stand-up person. You have extreme ownership in what you do and you don't do. And perseverance. And perseverance is just one of those things that when you start something, you don't stop, even when you want to. You got to do things when you're not in the mood to do them. Okay. Self-control. You got to control yourself to do the right thing. Sometimes the right thing is doing things. When we tell kids, sometimes the right thing is to do things for your folks without them asking you. That's exercising self-control. And I tell them, that's the difference between discipline and self-discipline. When you're getting yelled at or you're being told what to do, that you're being disciplined. When you do things on your own and not being told, you have self-discipline. And the more self-discipline you work on, the more respect you earn in this world, right? And then an indomitable spirit. And that spirit is that I don't quit. Even when the odds seem against me, I figure a way out. And those are the kind of core values that we do.
Wonderful approach to shape those characters, and also wonderful to start when they are small still. Absolutely. From the corporate perspective, we always start when we do leadership training, and I believe martial arts is integral in leadership, training in all the students. We also start with self-leadership, leadership with others, leadership of the corporation, and then stakeholders, management of that. And I see that also in martial arts coming through. Because you start to, you lead yourself, then you can take a class, you can be a senpai, then you become a sensei, and then you go on, to be a kyoshi and a grandmaster. So that process, that shaping is much similar. And it all comes down to discipline. You said, doing something when you don't feel like it. That's self-discipline. So thank you so much for sharing that. I love your core values and what you're doing there with your studio and your dojo. And 600 black belts. That's amazing. How many years did that take?
So I got my first degree black belt in June of 1987. And then after that, I went immediately and started a program at our church as a ministry.
Wow.
And so, 87, then 88 and 89, my 2 years in is when you people understand how the degrees work. In our system anyway. It's whatever degree you're testing for, that's how many years you have to wait. So from first to second is two then is 3, and then once you make 5th degree, it's an every 5-year process, right? And so and I've tested for every single rank. Sometimes some schools it's kind of an honorary thing after 5th or 6th, and they kind of give you these honorary belts. Well, I never did that. I tested for every one of mine.
Wow.
And I got to do it with students, right? So I got to produce these students, and then they got to see me test alongside of them, right? And on certain times. Yeah. And how long did it take me to get there? So, I remember my first black belt. His name's Jason Kemp. I remember number 1. And we're in Tong Sudo, we're in the 600s. In Krav Maga black belts, I'm in the 60s. This is where
that's awesome.
Right, the two combine those two, and that's where you get that number. But I would say, and it sounds like astronomical amount of students. And when you think about it, you guys can see when you see me or see my belt, I have a number 100 on there, and I got 100 tattooed on this. Here, that I was my instructor's number 100th black belt. And so I've always kept that number, right? Now my instructor's is into the thousands as far as what he is. So I want to give you like a perspective on people that quit.
Yeah.
We have a red belt number. We get a green belt and a red belt, and we get these numbers at that rank. So when I turn green belt, you get a number, a plaque, and you get a number, and that's where it starts, kind of your training, in advanced training. And my number for green belt was 1,691. I was my instructor's 1,691 student that made green belt, but I was only his number 100 that made black belt. That means 1,500 people quit.
Gave up. Yeah.
Right. They give up right before they win.
Astronomical.
So this is when you know, in the scheme of things, like I've trained thousands and thousands of people to get 600 black belts, right?
Yes.
And it's a process, you know, and when I look back on how my first black belts, I was such a hardcore instructor, you know, to get a black belt was really hard. And then when I went through to get a Hapkido black belt in it was 92 or 93, I went and got a Hapkido black belt. I wanted to further my Tong Sado so my students wouldn't leave. Because after black belt, it's like you learn a couple forms and that's it.
And then they go. Yeah.
So I went looking for something that didn't have a lot of kata in it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring something that I can teach my black belts.
Yeah.
And so I came up with, the Hapkido, which I enjoyed, and that set the stage. I was if you ever come to my test, it's probably not something you've ever seen. I rent out a giant place. There's a catered lunch.
Yes.
And it's a major show. And when a student graduates, you'll have mom or dad will read to their children before they walk down a candlelit path before I tie a black belt on. And then we have a catered lunch and demos and you know, I make a video of my students' process. It takes, once you get the highest red belt, then it takes 6 months to do this process with pre-test, hours and hours of time before black belt testing. And so after that, I didn't want them to quit. So I went and learned this, and it became my curriculum for after black belt. Weapons, forms, all kinds of stuff that came with it. And I came up with modules. That means every 6 months, my black belts have to test every 6 months for what we called 1.6 degrees. So first degree, when you test, you become 1.6. Another 6 months, 1.12. Next one, 1.18. Once you're 1.18, you're eligible to become a second degree black belt.
Oh, I see.
So this is how I had students stay and stick around. And, you know, a lot of schools don't do stuff like this. And I had module training. That means we take a module, whether it's jujitsu or wrestling or the staff or the whatever it is, 3 months, we work on that in black belt class. We test on that. And then we're on to the next module until it's time for actual rank testing. So this is how I did my school. And this is how I have such a high retention of black belts. And today it's the number is 600 and something black belts, but I've probably got about 30 of them that are masters. That means they've been with me 10 years as black belts.
That is phenomenal. I love the way that you approach it. It's so unique, and I love the way that you bring the modules in, help them to master those modules. You give them that vision, you give them those shorter goals to reach, and that ultimately helps them to reach the longer goal, you know, of going to the next black belt grading. I would love to one day be at one of those ceremonies to see the parents. I mean, just the way you put that together is amazing, because you show them it's a part of their life, and you honor them for the hard work, because it's hard work to train and it's hard work to grade. And I want to ask you, in your black belt grading, what do you do? Is it a long day? I know I've heard that the black belt gradings going for hours. What do you include in a black belt grading?
So it's interesting how I set mine up, right? We do pre-testing before actual black belt testing day.
Oh.
There's 3 pre-tests that you have to go through. First pre-test is very mental because it's a forms test. It's kata testing. And so you're going to be, and I push people that you have to come up in front of us by yourself.
Yes.
You can't make mistakes. If you make mistakes, you don't pass that test, and you're going to have to come up again in front of me. So it's very often that the first pretest, a lot of people don't pass. And they have to come back in 2 or 3 weeks and redo that pretest. Not that they can't test for black belt, but it is a mentally draining thing. There's a lot of tears. There's a lot of anxiety. But I tell them, I said, you need to go through tears and anxiety here.
Yes.
So when you rock that in life, you've been through this. And I'm not a picnic on that day. I'm not Mr. Nice Guy. I'm not Mr. Cox. I am very matter of fact. If you're not doing well, I'm telling you, you don't do well.
Yeah.
You don't practice. I tell you things you don't want to hear. And sometimes the parents don't like it, but you may not like it, but the truth is what the truth is. I can't help what you don't like. Right. And so that's our first pretest. Now, the second pretest, is 2 days, and it's super physical. So it starts at 5 o'clock at night and probably ends around 8 or 9. And this is where all the self-defense, all the fighting, all the exercising, all that happens. And then the next morning, we do a hike at 5:30 a.m. And we go and we do a hike at 5:30 a.m. as a team building thing. We do a hike together. Then they come together for, it's a couple hours there, 2-3 hours, but it's not the hike, but they also have to go through the gauntlet. And the gauntlet is on second pretest. I have guys in full suits, full self-defense suits, and you're going to have to go through like a forest or a park type setting and being attacked. And you're going to have to defend yourself. And if you can't defend yourself, you don't pass that test. And if you don't pass that test, you have to wait for the next black belt test. Now, my students are pretty hardcore. I'm a hardcore school. I always have been. And that's probably the funnest things that they do. And then the hike happens. They have donuts, bagels and stuff and all the stuff, fruits and all that stuff they bring. They eat together and then we dismiss. And that's second pretest. Now, third pretest is where we kind of do the weapons work and we're starting to refine what's going to happen on testing day. And so we do a lot of work there on getting them prepped because everybody gets up by themselves on testing day and does their designed weapons form or whatever they're going to do, or fight scene or whatever it is. And after third pretest, you are eligible for the black belt testing day. And the black belt testing day is more of a showcase. You invite your grandparents. I encourage them, hey, grandparents don't need to see number one test because you're just going to get your butt chewed for a couple hours. Grandparents don't like it, and it's just better not for them not to be there. Yeah. But on black belt testing day, it's an auspicious occasion. There's tickets sold. There's coffee in the morning. It's a big, giant production. And I do a video. I've done a video for 20 years of every team. You can see them on YouTube on what my black belt tests look like. And so on that day, it's more of a performance that day. The kids all perform their stuff. It's okay, here's our forms. We do forms together. We do this. And then everybody's highlighted by themselves on their weapons form. We fight. And a lot of times I'll get on the mat, and I'll do some wrestling around with the kids and let them tap me out. And, it's a fun day. And it's a stressful day. But then they walk down the candlelit path and then it's black belt testing, and I'm tying a black belt around their waist. That's how I think.
My goodness, I'm listening to the whole process. I love the way you structure it, and it doesn't sound like work. It sounds like an adventure.
It is an adventure.
That's wonderful.
It's a life-changing adventure, trust me.
Absolutely. My goodness, I'm definitely going to go look that up on your YouTube channel. I can't wait to see that. It's something else. And I feel like when you explained the process, I felt like it was something like that in those days in Okinawa, where warriors really worked, for the victory and for the breakthrough. So you kind of bring that essence into it all. It's not just a platonic, grading. You go, you do your kata, you fight. It's something with a twist. And also to let the family celebrate with the students. That's a brilliant idea. I'm sure.
And I'm a big proponent on, if grandparents are alive, that they need to be standing next to me, because I tell everybody I would give anything for my grandfather to see me get my black belt. My grandmother was at a couple of my tests, but I didn't have them there. So it's really important for me. And then a lot of times if the parents are already training, I will start tying the belt. I'll let the parents finish tying the belt, or a sibling that's taking class. So it's not just me snapping belts. It's a process.
Beautiful.
It's a village, and then I'll let them also do it too. Which is a lot of things.
Family.
You don't see this. You don't see this in most schools. I can tell you that.
I've never heard of that before. I've never heard of that. The closest experience to that I've had, and we have a lovely school. We have, the normal type of grading, which I love. It's tough. We go for hours. It's all day. And we work for our belts. It's not that you just get your belt. But I remember just before the COVID mark, I started late in my 30s with karate, but just before COVID, my mom came to visit me, and this was before she was diagnosed with brain cancer. And she said she wanted to visit attend one of the classes of my son, Joshua, at karate. And I took her, but my class is obviously after his for my age group and everything. And I thought she was going to go home with him, and they would come and pick me up later. And as we were going to close the dojo doors, she was still standing there, and I said, "Do you want to come in? Are you going home? Did Joshua forget something?" She said, No. I traveled 900 kilometers. I'm going to sit in on your class as well. Now, I'm 30, but she's still my mom, and that was a wonderful feeling to see that she was interested, even at my age, to, see what I'd been able to master in the karate. And it was a blessing from God. And, shortly after she was diagnosed and she passed away. So I'll always remember that. So when you spoke about the grandparents and the parents being there and you tying the belt, I thought, my goodness, that would have been phenomenal to have had her there one day, but at least I had that experience. Right. So that was just a blessing. Thank you for sharing that. It's really, it does something to my spirit. And I wanted to ask you, we have partners in karate, we have jiu-jitsu partners, we have sparring partners, we have, grappling partners. Weight-wise, sometimes we go age-wise. If you look back over your life, have you ever had that one partner that you really just gelled with, that, it just worked? You just loved engaging with that partner. Can you think of someone, or were there no specific people, or what were the characteristics of such a person?
Well, I still have that today, believe it or not, right? So there's seasons in martial arts, right? And, when I came up the ranks, we didn't test the way I do. It was a little more brutal. And then you have a bunch of black belts sitting on a panel. Yeah. 3/4 of them don't even know who you are, never even worked with you. And then, there's a lot of personality that went with it. If somebody doesn't like you, they'd retest you, stuff like that. And so, but I always had these partners coming up the ranks. Probably my best friend till today, his name is Brian Nan. Him and I just worked out well together when I was coming up karate ranks. Yeah. And we still see each other today, right? 30, 40 years later, but we spent hours upon hours into the midnight hours working on one steps, working on whatever it is we're going to do and perform that day, or our testing's coming up. We put hours in the studio, fighting every Friday night fight nights. We wouldn't miss them. We wouldn't miss them for the world. And so, I've always had that. But even today, right, I'm 61 today, and I still do a lot of jiu-jitsu today. I was training jiu-jitsu today with my instructor. And I have a partner now. His name's John Viverka. And we just gel well. He's a Marine that is a combat Marine. Oh. And we gel really well. Our mindsets are the same. I've helped him open up his school that he's had now for the last year. And so him and I, we were just working out today together, but see, we show up on once a week where it's just him and I, and we go over techniques and we roll, we work on Krav Maga together. And so I still have that today. I encourage anybody, whether it's martial arts or whether it's business, you need to have somebody in your corner that you gel well with, that is honest, but you feel safe with, right? Yes. So trusting. Yeah. Right. There's got to be a trust that I'm not trying to hurt him. We go hard, but I'm not trying to take him out of his, where he teaches class or something to that effect. I'm not doing that. And I think the same thing as well for business, right? So you have people that you gel well with, but you got to have those people that you can bounce ideas off where you're in a safe setting. And so you see all this stuff comes on the mat and goes off the mat. It just does it on a it's such a correlation that it's amazing to me.
My goodness, the way that you express that, yes, absolutely. I'm thinking of, when we know our moves, when we know what we are doing, when we've learned it, we can do it with any partner. You will know we can do it with any partner, but there's that one or two people that stand out. Their energies match. If you tell them let's go 50% or 80%, they understand what you mean. If you say, let's do this now and we'll just roll a little bit or we'll just go into these blocks. So I also have favorites with that. It's fine to do it with a lot of other people, but there's that one person that you just feel the energy is there and it just flows. So I'm so glad to hear you still have that. Thank you so much. And I love getting into the bunkai as well, of the kata, to understand what the move means. The intention of the move, because kata is very pretty, but it wasn't really designed just to be a beautiful dance. Like, it was designed to work on certain handles of the body and work on certain pressure points. So with the bunkai, is it necessary, in your opinion? I'm sure you also teach the bunkai because you do Krav Maga. How necessary is it for the student to know what the move means? That if you go, you're not just doing this, you actually broke someone's neck.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because as karate evolves here in the United States, especially, right, with MMA and a traditional karate school where you're doing traditional forms. And I tell my students, because it goes against principles sometimes, right? So you do a stepping center punch, that's a very set move. And then you have a fighting stance where you're fighting and you're moving, right? And so it's a contrast. And how I explain forms is you have a textbook in school and you graduate your college or your high school going through this textbook. This number, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. Then you get out in the real world.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that you learned in the textbook, sometimes it correlates, but it's often different, right? Now you have experiences. So I tell my students a lot that this is forms in kata are like a textbook. You have certain set moves.
Yeah. And
then there's things that these moves mean, right? Because standing in a front stance is not real advantageous in a fight. You're not going to catch me doing it.
No.
But is it necessary? Well, if you want good hip flexors,
yes,
you're going to need to have a good front stance, right? Can you stand in a front stance for 10 minutes when your hip flexors are burning? Because the hip flexors then are going to be able to turn into, is your kick going to be good?
Yeah.
Are you blading your ankle on your side kicks? Are you flexing your foot on your front kicks? Are you hitting with the ball of your foot? See, this is all the textbook things.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you got good textbook fundamentals, when it comes time to use them, you have what I call ATR, automatic timing and reflexes.
Beautiful.
And once you have automatic timing and reflexes,
yes,
your moves become deadly and you become more powerful. Now, Krav Maga, it doesn't have set forms. So it's a self-defense system. So Krav starts out like their combatives are real Thai boxing combatives, low kicks, and they don't spend the time a karate practitioner does when it comes to developing muscles for kicking. It's the straight self-defense art. And so something that you can learn relatively quickly, but as years go on, you got to get more proficient. And where do you get more proficient? Getting back to the fundamentals so you can kick better.
Always.
Right?
Always.
And so it's a topsy-turvy thing, right? As much as I wasn't the biggest kata guy, but I said, if we're going to do kata, we're going to do it like a fight. Fantastic. And you're going to have some intensity on your face, and you're going to change, and you're going to be able to snap a punch. And so when you need to learn how to relax, and you need to learn how to snap a punch, just like you do in life, because the form's a different type of discipline.
Yeah.
It's a discipline of not making mistakes. It's a discipline of putting your body through stances and correcting yourself. So it's a different type of discipline. Not that it's any better or worse. It's just different. And I think black belts have a, you'll get them that say that they're a waste of time. And you're going to get some that are over the top. That's almost all they do, which in my turn is a waste of time. So you got to put your forms and katas in where you got. And when you talk about the practical side of forms, of course there is. There's a few things I tell my students all the time, and light bulbs go off. In one of our forms, there's a wrist break where someone's holding us and we kind of break the wrist and we bring that elbow close to my body this way, right?
Yeah.
And I said, the 45-degree angle and your elbow being where there's no space anymore, it makes you an extremely hard human being to move. Oh. And you are going to see different things. So let's say we're jiu-jitsu today. And as a matter of fact, we're working arm bars and we're trying to get an arm bar where there's no space. And I was asking one of my karate students, I said, you see what we just did? You know what form that's from, right? And then they're like, well, wait a second. We don't do forms in jiu-jitsu. I said, no, but you're a karate practitioner. I told you that this move here, you're going to find everywhere.
My goodness.
And so it starts to put things together, right? Mm-hmm. When there's times that you want space and you don't want space. Is there times that when my elbow's here, somebody can't pull me as tight. So a smaller person becomes stronger just based on the angles and everything else. But isn't life the same way, right? So I tell all my students, I said, listen, whether you're fighting in jiu-jitsu or you're doing self-defense in Krav Maga or you're doing traditional karate, there's principles. And the principles of a fight are you have to change distance sometimes.
Oh, yes.
You have to change angles.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you have to change, levels.
Yeah.
So you've got levels, down. Right? Yeah. You got a level, you got distance, and you got angles.
Yeah.
And I said, aren't you doing the same dodges in life, in business?
Wow.
Sometimes you have, you got this. If I want his arm to go this way, I got to change my angle to make that happen.
Mm, yeah.
Hey, listen, if I want the business thing, if my business negotiations need to go differently, okay, this angle's not working. I got to redirect the angle here.
Yeah.
And then you get that the don't quit attitude out of it, or better yet, not the don't quit as much as I need to find a way out. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So when you're sparring or you're grappling, it's only you and them. You can't worry about bills. You're not worried about what race you are. Yeah. You're not worried about nothing except getting choked out.
Yes.
And how am I going to survive this second, this minute? And how am I going to give up or am I going to find a way? Now, how much more can martial arts correlate to life? Right? To doing business, to doing and having the attitude of self-discipline to say, I don't want to do this today, but this is something I got to do. You know what I mean? There's nothing better coordinating in life than martial arts. Even Tony Robbins will tell you the same thing because he's a black belt in Taekwondo.
Wow. I follow him, but I actually didn't know he's a black belt in Taekwondo. My goodness gracious. I love what you said about the angles. I love what you said about the levels. For instance, I was thinking when you spoke about levels, if someone, tall would, for instance, attack me, what would I do? Because I'm small in stature. I'd kick them and that would bring their body forward and then I'd be able to, do something. So learning those levels, learning the mechanics, learning the angles. I know that is so interesting. And martial artists, karateka martial artists, practitioners, are innovative and smart and knowledgeable people because they know how to get out of a fix. They know how to get out of that hold. They know how to, like you said, turn their body and timing, when to do that, when to make space, when to come closer. And I find that very interesting in that you took those principles and you're pulling them over into business. That is magnificent because it's going to break so many things open for people as well. Now, I know you have the dojo. and your students. And I want to ask you, for training purposes, how many times a week do you train? Are there days that you don't train? Are there days that you train less? How does your regime work? Because different people have different routines and styles. I know of people that are martial artists that will train in the dojo from Monday to Friday, and then weekend they'll train at home. So how does that work for you?
Are you talking about my personal thing or what my students do?
Yeah, for you.
Okay.
For you personally.
So me personally. So I'll give you my schedule of what I do personally. So there's not a day that doesn't go by that I don't lift weights. Okay. I lift weights on an everyday basis.
Oh my goodness.
So when I do that, every day I'm in the gym.
Yeah.
And I try and hit a sauna or a hot steam 3 to 5 times a week.
Oh.
Okay. And then as far as martial arts goes, I work out my personal self. I've got not just teaching, but just working out. I've got a workout. My workout partner and I, we meet every Friday at 11 and we do an hour of rolling together.
Good.
Every Wednesday, that's today. Every Wednesday at 1:00, my instructor comes, and I today I took a private lesson with him for an hour, and then we did a 2-hour class. So this is my Wednesdays. My Wednesdays are my jiu-jitsu days. Fridays are my jiu-jitsu at 11. At noon, I do all my Krav Maga training, and then on Saturdays, it's a hit and miss. Sometimes we go to tournaments, and I'm coaching. So, my personal training days are probably of martial arts. I try to roll 3 to 4 times a week.
Yes.
I try to do Krav Maga at least once or twice a week. And as far as my karate, unfortunately, I do my forms more, but I had a knee replacement 7 years ago on my left, and I won't do it with my right. So when you watch me do forms, I kind of favor my right. So I don't have these nice crisp stances like I used to because it just hurts my knee. And so that's my personal regimen on what I do. Mm-hmm. I enjoy the weight room. I've lifted weights since I was a young guy. I'm not your typical looking martial artist. People have told me for a long time that you'd never have a school. You don't look like a martial artist. I'm a bigger guy. I got a little more country on my bones, and I've just always been a heavy set athlete. I don't know why. Even when I played football, I can do the full splits. People freak out when they watch me today, and I can lay down in a split.
Wow.
And they're like, I just told them, I said, this is just something I've been able to do, ever since I was in high school. And then, I told you before, I had a medical scare 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. I was in really bad shape, and I was not in good shape, health-wise, weight-wise. I was 110 pounds heavier than what you see me today. And I had to go after that. And now my journey now, after getting through blood clots and stuff, is health now, right? Where I used to go to the gym and my ego was so big that I'm still going to bench this 350 pounds and I'm 60 years old and I'm benching this heavy stuff and my wrists are just killing me, right?
Yeah.
And, and so I had to redirect myself and take my ego out a little bit and realize that regardless, time is our ultimate opponent and time does not lose.
Amen.
You know what I mean? Time is the ultimate opponent and it always wins. So we have to put the opponent back on its feet a little bit.
Yes.
So we have to, health became an idea of mine. And then of course in jiu-jitsu, I'm a competitor in my heart. I always have been. So now I want to compete. I want to take my jiu-jitsu on the mat against somebody else in a stressful situation. But it's hard to find 60-year-olds that want to do it.
I can imagine.
60-year-olds don't really compete in jiu-jitsu. It's hard to find. I've yet to find one.
Yes.
So I have to go back. There's a couple things I have to do if I want to try and compete. I got to go to a different weight class. So I'm cutting weight right now to try and go down even more, and then probably go down in age bracket because there's some 50-year-olds that still go after it. But there's still a difference between a 50 and a 60-year-old. A 50-year-old still has some athleticism, and I don't have that same athleticism I used to. So, that's just kind of me. This is my regiment. This is how I think.
Love that.
And that's just, how I do. The weight room is important to me. It's a cleansing, and it's a different, I have different lifting times, right? So there's times I have a stressful day, and maybe I need some prayer time. And so I'll put Casting Crowns on. I love their music, and I call it praying and pressing. And so, I got worship music on, and I'm talking to God and I'm pressing the weights, and I'm doing that type of workout. Other workouts, I got Metallica on because I'm just all jacked up, right? And so, it's just that stuff's important to me for sure.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. You said a couple of amazing things. First of all, I hear you. I'm the same. I put on different types of music, in different days, depending on what I feel like. And that just ministers to me as I either do my kata or train or box or whatever that day is on my training schedule. But I love the fact that you are 61 years of age and that you are still going strong. I mean, 60 is not old, Mark. Your life is just starting, but I can understand.
60 years is not old, but when your body has been beat up for 30 years and getting slammed and having multiple concussions and then knee replacements, the mind is 60. The body sometimes is like, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? That is true.
I mean, so still you want to compete. I love that. And I can imagine that it's difficult to find a partner your age, but I want to say, those 50-year-olds, they need to be careful because you've got all of those years of experience. So they might be athletic, but you've got the knowledge and the moves and the training and the experience. So I think you're going to give them a very good fight. They mustn't just think because you're a little bit older that they are going to automatically win. So I love that about you, that go-get spirit, just working on your training on so many different levels. You are fluent in a lot of arts. Now, I want to ask you something, and this is something that I was pondering on the other day. I was asked to do 3 consecutive grappling classes, jiu-jitsu classes at the dojo because our sensei is a teacher as well. And he phoned me and he said, well, we don't want to close the dojo for the day. Please come and take these classes. And I was so happy to do that. I'm in the middle of a move. I'm moving homes and offices. I said, Sensei, I'm going to drop everything. I'm there. I don't care. The world can go to smithereens, but those 3 hours, I'm there. So I went and I looked at the first class with the smaller ones, and then they get a little bit older, and then it was our class. And I looked at this little fresh young white belt standing there. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder what was the first thing that they ever took home to their parents and said, that's what I learned today. That first lesson, that first moral value, that first importation from the sense. And I want to ask you, is there a specific first lesson that you do for that first day that white belt or the red notch walks into the dojo? Is there something that you love to go to, or does it differ from class to class or year to year?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my experience, I have a little bit different experience than some of my instructors. I'm the boss and I'm the older one, and I've raised children already. And so I have a different flavor than some of the other instructors. But now when the white belt goes home, it's not the punching and kicking that I'm looking for them to learn.
Beautiful.
It's the self-esteem and it's the self-discipline and the manners. So
beautiful.
So you get a stripe, and you get a stripe in their first class. I say, listen, if you can come home, if you come to me tomorrow and you can tell me your phone number, I'm going to give you a stripe.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay.
And then your next stripe earned is saying 5 words: courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. When you can say those 5 words to me, I'm going to give you another stripe.
Beautiful.
Okay. And so now I've got the students. We had some fun in class. We throw in some punches and kicks. We stand in Jumi position, ready position. There's no moving. There's no talking. I say some things. And when I'm in ready position, When I say chumbi, that means, come to attention, but that also tells the students, when I say chumbi, that's that we are champions, sir. When I say chitty up to bow, that means come to attention. They say future black belt, sir. When they bow to me, right, they say future black belt. When I say face to flags, they say future black belt. When I say, chumbi, say we are champions, sir, again. And so you have to work on that. Now, I want you to work on those 5 words. And I want you to have some confidence in yourself when you say them. So next time I see you, I want you to introduce yourself to me. You're going to look me eye to eye. You're going to shake my hand, and you're going to say, good afternoon, sir. My name is whatever your name is, right? And I'm going to say, good afternoon, sir. My name is Mr. Cox. It's good to meet you. And you're going to look at me eye to eye when we do it. And then that's how you're going to learn how to speak. Then you're going to earn stripes for knowing your phone number. So when they go home, they haven't talked anything about how fun the punch and kick was.
Yes.
So what they went home and said, Mom, I got to work on knowing my phone number. Can you help me memorize it?
Amazing.
Okay. Because what's more important than if you get lost not knowing your mom's number, especially today when everybody has cell phones? It was different for you and I. We memorized every number on the planet.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Now they're memorizing this number. What's the parents thinking? Wow, that's good. That's a good thing that they know. Right.
Yeah.
I bet you the parents probably learned their own phone number. Half of them probably don't even know it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So the next thing is, hey, we got another stripe coming up. Dad, can you help me with these 5 words? Can we? And I have something they can put on the refrigerator. Courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. You got to say all 5. If you can say all 5, I'll give you a stripe. So now they're working on their 5 words. So we're working on manners. Now I tell every students, I said, listen, you don't get a white belt the first day you come to class. You have to earn it.
Yes.
And they say, how do you earn it, Mr. Cox? You need to go home, and your parents are going to tell you a chore to do. And you're going to have to say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And what they tell you to do, you have to do with a good attitude.
Yeah.
And when I come back and your parents said, hey, we asked him to do this, he did it with a great attitude, you're going to earn your white belt.
I love
this is how we start off students. Now, if we can catch that at 3 years old.
Oh, yes.
And it's a little harder when they get older because, you can get a little resistant like anybody else.
Yeah. Yes.
But you push through and you learn manners. And I said, hey, it's okay to say yes, sir. When you're in my school, you answer me, yes, sir. You don't answer yeah. Yeah is not a word on the mat.
Of course.
You don't go off the mat without permission.
Yeah.
You bow when you go on the mat. You bow when you go off the mat. You respect where you're going to work out.
Always.
So I tell them all the time, it's might as well, if you're going to start practicing yes, sir, and no, sir, you might as well practice with your parents.
Mm.
And
Yes,
you'll be
because
surprised
it
on
becomes
how
a
parents come
lifestyle.
back and say, and I'm always surprised at 2 things. One is the parents are like, I can't believe that he says yes, ma'am, to me. And
Wow.
I said, you never reward the behavior. Say, hey, I really appreciate how you're talking to me. Let him know that adults are going to appreciate respect.
It's a reward.
And then the next thing is, I'm always amazed at parents that think it's over the top that you have them say yes, sir.
Yeah.
So there's 2 different
Good
things.
mix.
But I tell the parents, I said, look, the rules in the studio, that's what you're going to do. If you don't want to do it at home, that's your rules. In my house, it's my rules.
Your
And
rules.
so-
Yes. Respect.
And so that's just kind of how I treat white belts. So it's not like I'm going to teach them this punch and this kick and they're going to like it, because teaching somebody to punch and kick is the easy part.
It's easy. Yes, that's the easy part. I agree.
Teaching them how not to use it
Yeah.
and have enough confidence in themselves to carry themselves,
Yes.
to know they can use it. That's the
Yes.
hard part of martial arts.
Absolutely. That shaping of that character, breaking
Correct.
off what is not supposed to be there and really making them these wonderfully beautiful, developed vessels. I love the fact that you work with them from such a young age, because, what you're doing in the dojo is impacting society out there, because they are the next generation. They are the next executives. They are the next line of entrepreneurs. They are the next line of authors. So what you do there really ministers to the rest of society, and it's a wonderful and an honorable thing that you are doing in our form, in our art. When we go to attention, we go into yoi. And when we start something, we say hajime. And when we stop, we say yummy. So those are also attention words that the little ones already know. If I walk in and I close that cage door, they go in their lines, in their age order, and we stand and I say yoi, and they go, chuk. And then we say kioski, sensenure, us, and we go into you again, and then we start with our class. So I love that discipline because that teaches them, there's a time and a place for everything. And when we train, and when we play around and, do a little bean bag or maybe play with tennis balls for the direction of the punches, that's when we play, but always under a disciplined spirit. I love that. Now, you mentioned to Emilia and Daniela, you were on a lovely call with them on the AMA show. I was actually driving to my tournament that I was participating in, competing in, and that day, and you were talking about Beyond the Mat, and you were explaining to them how it came to be that you opened your own dojo. Now, for the audience members, I was there, and I know it's on a live as well, but for the audience members, would you care to explain how you got your first dojo? Because I thought it was a phenomenal story.
Yeah, so it's in the book, right? Yeah, so I'll give you the not the Reader's Digest. I'll give you the full. Sometimes the book you have to be a little bit more.
Awesome.
But here's the thing. So I knew that I wanted to have a school, and I knew it was coming time up at church. It was growing so large that we're going to have to branch down. They were getting to the point that they didn't want people that were not members of the church to come and take class, which I can understand because it was getting larger and larger. And it was a ministry. We didn't make money at it. And I was talking to my mentor at that time. His name's Mr. Knight. He's one of the other the black belts that opened it up with me. It was me and my brother and Mr. Knight. And I said, Mr. Knight, I want to do this. And he just super encouraged. He goes, I think you should. I said, I want to do it in Chatsworth, even though it's here. That way, we can still have the ministry on those that can't afford it. And then those that want to branch down with me will branch down with me. And so that's what we ended up doing. And then there's this, I used to ride my bike to it all the time. It's been empty for 12 years. It's this corner. There's a laundromat on one side and a video store on the other, and it's this corner unit. And it's on the corner unit on the top of the building is a giant sign for that. I said, that sign's going to say Chatsworth Karate one day. I just know it. Right. And I didn't have money really at the time. I didn't have anything. Then I had this 1987 Mazda truck. It's close to 1990 now. I have one more payment to pay this truck off. It's my work truck. I was a pool man. And the night that I'm almost paid off that truck, it gets stolen.
Oh, no.
So I was like, you got to be kidding. But the insurance company gave me a big check for it like I wasn't expecting.
Thank God.
So they gave me like, I don't know what it was back at the time, $6,000 or something like, I'm like, wow. Back then it was like, that was just astronomical. And so what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to take half this money and I'm going to put it in the savings account. I'm going to go find a truck for $3,000. And then I'm going to put this money aside for my studio. So I found a truck for $3,000. 2 weeks later, that truck was stolen out of the alley.
Oh, my apartment. Goodness.
And lo and behold, the insurance company gave me $6,000 for something I paid $3,000. Took half the money. I've got this $6,000 now. Bought another truck. Went and called the guy and said, hey, I've got a group of students that are coming with me. I can afford the rent. And I'd like to rent this building. And then he asked me Social Security and all that. And I said, my credit's not really great,
Yeah.
And so he runs something on me and he tells me, he goes, hey, you don't really fit the profile. You don't have enough credit. And I said, but I'm able to pay first and last month's rent. I got it ready to go. I've got students that are following me. I should be able to pay rent. And this is just what I thought in my head. And he wouldn't give me the time of day. I said, let me talk to the owner. And he would not let me talk to him. Oh. I had a student that was in real estate, and he goes, run a property profile he goes, anybody can do that. Run a property profile and
Yes.
tell you who the owner is.
Can. Yeah.
And so I'm like, no way. So I ran a property profile, found out that he was a dentist in my town. And so I made an appointment with him and said, I'm coming in to have my teeth cleaned. And when I sat in Doc's chair, I said, I'm not here to do that. I said, nobody would let me talk to you. I found you. You own this building. That thing's been empty for 12 years.
Yes.
And he told me, he goes, no one's came to me with this. I said, I knew they didn't, because they don't think I have the wherewithal to do this. Yeah. But I'm telling you that I have students that are coming. I have money for a first and last. Gives me a little bit of cushion to find a mat. And he just said, okay, Mark, I'm going to give you a 1-year lease, so you're not locked in for long term. If you make it happen for a year, we'll retalk. I won't raise your rent that much, and we'll extend it. And that's how I started. And that's how I started Chatsworth Karate.
Amazing, that dedication, that go-get spirit, and people are like that. I've been in the real estate. I worked in the real estate for a long time, so I've seen my share of things. They do keep the people away from the owners. For what reason, I don't know. But just to think that you actually went. I love that. You're a badass. You actually went and you made an appointment at the dentist just to see the guy. I love that. And I'm sure that made an impression on him for life. I don't think anything like that has happened before or ever since.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just thought, well, he's a dentist. That in my head, I'm like, I'm just going to get my teeth cleaned. There's no way he can't talk to me at that point.
Exactly.
And so that's what I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, after training, after a long day of training or teaching, what's your favorite thing to do? My favorite thing to do is I love the cage and the mat. I love just lying there and just, the sweat in the neck and everything is there, but just to cool down and just to take a breather and just to enjoy that silence. What do you like to do in the dojo after your long day, before locking up? Is there a certain routine or a something that you do, a ritual?
Yeah. So, well, you're seeing in my office here, people that know me good, they know that I am a train fanatic. I love trains.
Oh,
and I've got 3 trains in my office, ceiling trains.
Oh.
And
okay.
The one above me right here is the Disney train, right? The Disneyland train.
Yeah.
And it's a G scale train. And then on the other side, in my other part of my office, on that ceiling, I have trains that go the opposite way, right? And I'm a big Christmas fanatic. And
lovely.
So my one train has all Christmas lights on it. So it's very true that after this thing, I have a couch in here. I kind of kick back and I hit my trains.
Lovely.
And I listen to them go, and I watch them go around and around, and
beautiful
smoke coming out of the thing. And if I have the sound on for the choo-choo part, I hear it. And so that's kind of it's a super relaxing thing for me to just unwind in there. And then I'll probably pick up a book sometimes. And right now I'm reading Tuesdays with Maury, and I'll take a couple of that. And then, when I go home, I'm a single dad. We've talked about that. And, my daughter likes to have me home, even though they're grown. And I've got a couple dogs, right? I got a Rousey and Nezzy. And Nezzy's our brand new pit bull. Is a year old. And she's a snuggle dog.
Oh, my goodness.
Dog. So sitting down with her watching TV has always been something that I just really enjoy doing and unwinding there. That's kind of what I do.
That is super unique. I saw that playing in my mind. You're just sitting there on the couch enjoying your trains after a long, hard day of training. So satisfying to just unwind. Tomorrow the day starts again. I thought you were. I thought Kat was your girlfriend. I didn't think. Oh, your girlfriend. Okay, so you and your girlfriend and your daughter live together?
No, we don't live together.
Okay.
No,
So
yeah,
you enjoy your trains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my kids, we don't live together, but we've been together forever, but we don't live together.
Beautiful.
I still have two of my boys and my daughter
Oh,
at
I
home.
see.
My one
Yeah.
son's married. My one that helps me run the school, he's married. That's Michael.
Yeah.
And Daniel, my youngest boy, he's going to graduate college in just a few months.
Wonderful.
And then,
That's beautiful.
My other son, Gabriel, he's working, and I have a daughter that's 21 and named Ariel. And,
Okay.
she's and she's the one. If Kat doesn't come with me, I'll bring Ariel probably to my book thing.
Oh, amazing, amazing. And the family values, they come through. The family values, and you practice what you preach, because you go to training, you do all your training, you do your teaching, and then afterwards you make time to rest. You invest in yourself, but you also have time for your family. And there comes the balance, in karate as well. There must always be a balance. No overtraining, no undertraining. That balance, that all-round feeling that you are working on different parts of your life. Now, what type of dog did you say you had?
Say that one more time.
What type of dog did you say you had?
Oh, I have. So I have I have American Bulldog that's 10 years old. That's Rousey. She's a big dog. She's a big 80-pound dog. And I've got, we have a brand new pit bull named Nezzy.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a Yorkie, and he's about this big. And I think if he was a human, he should have gone for martial arts classes, because he doesn't think he's a Yorkie. He thinks he's a Rottweiler. So he's forever looking for trouble with all the big dogs.
Isn't it funny how pit bulls have such a bad reputation, and it's those little Yorkies and Chihuahuas that are the monsters.
Exactly. No, thank you so much for that. Love the family aspect. I always say to all the people that I interview, I love it when people are family orientated. I love it when they put that work in, because what really is more important than our loved ones? Our husbands, our wives, and our boyfriends and girlfriends and our kids. Why are we doing then what we do if we don't invest that time in them? So that's phenomenal. I take my hat off to you. It's commendable. And I want to ask you the last few questions. We're almost through our session. The time has just flown. I wanted to ask you, weekends. What do you do with your family on weekends for fun? What is your go-to? If you have time, do you go bike riding?
It's funny that, it's a good question. You know what I mean? And as you get older, your kids get busier.
Oh, yes.
And so you don't have as much time as you think, right? So now that my two sons work all the time, but for instance, this is only a couple years back, right? This is the first year, believe it or not, Halloween. We have something called Knott's Berry Farm out here. And I would say for the last 15 years, on opening night, we all go on a Thursday night, all of my kids, boyfriends if they have them, or girlfriends if they have them at the time. We do opening night. Yeah, we do opening night, and we enjoy that. We've done it for years. This is the first year I did not do it with my family.
Oh.
Because one's like, Dad, I can't go, man. I got to work tonight. And the other one's like, Dad, I can't go. I've got work. And Ariel hurt her foot. She kind of fractured a slight fracture in her ankle falling. So she's like, Dad, I can't walk around like that. And so this was the first time, right, that I wasn't able to do that.
Oh,
so, if things come up on weekends, the pandemic, we spent a lot of time together. Part of that I missed, where I was cooking and everything for him on the weekends and doing that stuff. And so
love it.
As much as you think you have all this time, sometimes you don't, right? So when I go to church on Saturday, I run the security team at church. I'm the head in security in church.
Yeah.
And, that's something that's taken serious, especially here in the U.S., because, churches are attacked all the time. So, sometimes that involves my day. And then Saturday, I'm here till noon. So I'll usually go home. Ariel and I will watch, a little TV together and talk, or we'll all go out. There's a little cafe that all my kids like. Now, if I can get them all together, we'll go at that cafe. We'll sit at the table and we'll enjoy a meal and stuff together. But it kind of gets weird as you get older on how much time that you don't get to have as much anymore, unfortunately. I'm starting to feel that emptiness and know that my sons are starting to get to a point where they may not be home. You know what I mean? In the next couple of years, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just a different phase of life. But
it is. It's part of it. It's part of the journey. But what I love to see, and that's what we also see in the dojos that I know here in South Africa, and the senses that I'm very fond of. You have to uphold those family values. You have to make sure your family is strong and connected with bonds of love, because the outside world look in. The children that are being dropped off at the dojo, their parents want those values to be instilled. So the fact that you have such a wonderful grasp on your family, I know you didn't spend that holiday together this year, but everyone that attends your class, they know you're a family man, you're a good father, you're a mentor. And that's really what draws people, because they want the best for their children. So I love that about martial arts. I know all the senses that I know are like that. They are family driven, they are family orientated, they work at it, and they instill those values also in the small children. And that's important, especially in the times that we live, that we teach them what is honorable and what is integrity, and what does it mean to be loyal and giving and disciplined. So thank you so much for that. I have only a few questions left. I wanted to ask you, for January, we are going to the business bootcamp. Would you like to, for those who were not on our call on your podcast, would you like to maybe just give them a hint? Because I would love for people to register for the AMA Business Bootcamp. What are we going to do there at the bootcamp? Well, maybe just give them a little bit of a hint.
So Emilio has talked me out of retirement to people may not know. I don't really talk so much about my tournament days, but I was a world champion for almost 4 or 5 years in self-defense and in brick breaking. And every once in a while, you'll even catch me on ESPN when I was a younger guy breaking, if they do those where they used to film and stuff like that. So I've been on ESPN and stuff like that to do brick breaking and stuff like that. So I told him, I said, okay, I'll come out of retirement and I'll break some bricks that day on stage. And I'm coming early also. And I told anybody that comes in early, I'll do a class, I'll teach. And if they want to come in and do some class with me. And then, so on the business boot camp, I'll speak a little bit more about what martial arts and business and leadership have in common, right? There's a black belt mindset, and to have a black belt mindset, you have to have a black belt principles. You can't have a mindset and no principles, right? You can't have principles and no mindset. So I'm going to correlate how those go together. So at the AMA, when you buy tickets and come to this, there are some phenomenal speakers that are going to be there that day.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And so guys and women that I have got to learn from, listening to their, their words of wisdom. Yeah. And of course, I'm kind of a sponge with that. And I'm like, how do I incorporate that into the martial arts now? How do I take what they're saying? Where in the martial arts does that fit? And so I'm looking forward to the speeches and stuff that day, and all the books that are going to be released that day. Oh my
goodness, 15. Yeah.
Yeah, 15 books. That means 15 different people are going to tell us their story and how they changed and how they've changed the world with their story. And I tell all my students all the time, you may not be able to change the world, but you can change your world. And when you change your world, that changes the world. And I tell them this all the time. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what life journeys got in people's way and how they navigated out.
Yeah.
Right? And, martial arts was my saving grace.
Yes.
Maybe
Amen.
music was somebody else's saving grace, right? Yes. Maybe somebody music, like Jared Miller, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, phenomenal musician, right? And so, Raul, he's another one. Music helped him. Writing poetry helped him.
Yeah.
You see, everybody is a black belt in something.
Beautiful.
Okay? Right? just because I wear a black belt doesn't mean I can be a black belt in Jared's world and sing. Right?
Yeah.
That's his world. That's where he shines. That's his black belt.
Yeah.
And so in the AMA thing, I'm looking forward to seeing what all these experts have and what they overcame is just phenomenal. I mean, the last
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I told the story to Glenn. I had Glenn on my podcast.
Yeah.
Tuesday. And I told him, I said, Glenn, I said, isn't it something that we had a virtual contest and not one virtual person won? I said, the only people that won are the people that were in the room. And I says, which is further, it's further proof that we are spiritually connected.
Yes, that's true.
Right. And
That's
it's
true.
hard to be spiritually connected on Zoom.
It is.
There's a different avenue. And I said, and I told him, I said, I did a major lesson in ego when I was a young man. And I talk about it in my book about being a jerk on something that I lost a championship on that I worked really hard for, and I lost the championship. Super angry. And the guy that won was somebody dying with AIDS, right? And I'm a jerk, and I don't even know that, right? I know he's in a wheelchair. I didn't know the whole story behind it, but I just wanted to win so bad that I just kind of dismissed him. And I remember this story. I tell the story in my book.
Yes.
And I said it had the remnants of that at that thing. I said, because I'm a highly competitive dude.
Yes.
I don't do things without the intention of winning.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't go with a maybe mindset. I go with a winner's mindset. I'm going to get on that thing and I'm going to win this thing. And whether I wing it or I study for it, I don't care. I'm going to win.
Yes.
And I'm going to bring it. And I knew I did. I knew I had something, but then I listened to Glenn and I was like, he's going to win this. I just knew it. Not just because he's so good at speaking, but because God put him there and he needed that money for kids.
Yeah.
But I told Glenn, I said, I'm going to be honest with you. It had remnants to me. I said, this is where I work on things in my own head, in my own ego.
Yeah.
It's something that I have to work on a daily, is to work on the self-discipline,
All of
not
us.
to have the ego. And I said, part of me was super pissed off. I said that I signed up for a virtual contest and not one virtual person won. I said, because we didn't have the luxury of hugging you. We didn't have the luxury of carrying that story on how you felt right there. Marilyn Morales, her story, you can't, I mean, that is a story that you're there, right? And I told Glenn, I said, listen to what I did after we were all done. I listened to all the speeches. And I said to myself, nobody virtually is going to win today. Everybody's going to win that's in that office.
Wow.
In my head, I said that.
You knew that. Yeah.
I already knew. And so I said, I'm going to wait around to hear the winners only to be pissed off that I didn't win. So I told Glenn, I said, I decided to sign off.
Oh.
And in my head, I gave you $100 that day towards shoes.
I remember you
right?
did.
And I said, and I left and said, God, give him the money. He needs the money. It's his day to day. And that's how I dealt with it. But I told him, I said, it had very big remnants of when I did this thing. And I said, I was not going to be that person again. And so I just didn't, even though I wanted to. I'm telling you, my old self, that's why I like the Hulk, because I'm always trying to suppress him and he's always trying to come out. And so that was another life lesson. And I tell people that. I said, I'm a real person, man, and I've got real issues. And it's a grind for me to work my mindset. And I believe I'm not the only person that's like that. I believe everybody's like that.
All goes to that. Yeah.
But most people don't want to. Most people don't want to put it out there because
they won't talk about it.
Right.
They won't.
And I feel like a hypocrite if I write about it in a book.
Yeah.
and I say, you know, I made this mistake and I was this, and then I have it again, right? And it creeps up on me all the time. Every time I compete, it creeps up on me.
Yeah.
Every time.
It wants to come out.
Because I am a competitive dude.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I hate losing more than I like winning. You know what I'm saying?
I can relate, right? I'm like that, Mark.
I'm just like that. I cannot stand to lose more than I like to win.
It's true.
Yeah, I know. And that's a hard pill to swallow, right? And so I, you know, and I got to talk to Glenn, and that was a great interview. And I felt I had to break through that day, even though I knew.
Beautiful.
Right. And so you can be upset about things, and or you can be happy for those. Why it is sometimes that we are upset at other people's success is kind of a weird phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right. And we put on a face. We put on a mask.
Yeah. All people.
And all people put on a mask, right? And if I'm going to be true to myself, when the mask is on, I'm going to tell people about it. Now, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I'm just generally happy. I really don't care. Not that day.
Not that
I worked for that day. And I put aside Sunday for that day. And I listened to everybody that day. And I was strategic on what I was going to talk about.
Yes, and you did very well.
And
very well.
And I wanted to, and I wanted to win. And then it came to the point of, you know, I'm doing this for the wrong selfish reason. And the right man won today. God put him there for a purpose. And it's not my purpose to have a trophy today. My purpose was to congratulate Glenn for his win and make sure that I can highlight him on my show. And that's exactly what I did.
I love that.
You know what I mean? So I think that as I've gotten older, I would have never done this as a younger man, just so you know. You know, I think with age comes a little bit of wisdom. I wish I had the wisdom today with a younger body, but I think everybody's still, you know, even I'm an older guy that if there's not stuff I'm still working on, everybody's still working on something.
We all
that AMA family. Yeah. That AMA family is different than CLA, just so you know.
I've said that on a live before. I agree with you.
Yeah. And I love the CLA, but there's an intimacy with the AMA family that is not as much with the CLA, right? Yeah. Emilio and Danielle have put something special together there.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed that process because they run it by their heart. I like Emilio anyway because he says it the way it is. You know, he's a lot like I am. You know, I might be a little more reserved on live, but I certainly can feel him. But that's the difference. In the CLA, I've met some wonderful people and I've got to interview and stuff like that. But I don't have the same intimacy with them, and I think it's because it's a smaller group.
It's a smaller group.
You know what I mean? And
we know each other better. Yeah.
And we all have a common goal, and the common goal is we're writing this book.
Beautiful.
And we're all letting this book out, and we're championing each other, you know, and we're going to root each other on that day. We're going to go, you know, because I'm still freaking out that I have a book that's actually going to be released. I'm like, well, I can't even believe that I did this. Right.
That's amazing.
And that's what everybody else says at the same time. And they're going to be on that stage and they're going to be, you know, this is my life's journey. Wow. And now I have it down on paper and I can't wait for that day. So that's the thing about AMA that I love.
I'm the same. I'm truly blessed. You know, my first contact with all of the people that you and I know from the CLA, from AMA, from the Business Leaders Network, my first contact was with Emilio Roman. And we just clicked because we are a lot alike. And, you know, just meeting Daniela, his beautiful wife, being in the AMA family, I always tell him, so many times I tell him, my goodness, God is so good. I've met so many older brothers in Christ. You know, it's just that AMA is an intimate group. We are brothers and sisters. We learn from each other. We cry together. We laugh together. Emilio says it like it is. I mean, I always say to everybody that I meet, there's only one Emilio. So I really enjoy him. And I thank God, for bringing me into the space where all of you are and for making me part of that family. Thank you so much for that. And for your mentorship. I appreciate you because your mentorship in my life is important to me. I want to learn from you, and I commend the way that you live your life, that you conduct yourself, and what you stand for. That's very important to me because I've been in the ministry for so long. I really look at what people stand for. What are their values? How do they live their lives? It's one thing to say something, and another thing to do. And what you say, what you say and what you portray to the world, that is what you live. And that is also the martial arts in there that I appreciate that. So I've got 2 last questions for you. I wanted to ask you, what is next for you? We've got the business bootcamp coming up where we're all going to be live at the business bootcamp. What's next for you? Do you have tournaments? And then I'm sure you're practicing your brick breaking. And then the last question would be, do you have any words of wisdom for the audience?
Yeah. So what's next for me is, I think about that quite often, and I'm kind of in where I'm at in life is, I like being on the mat. I like teaching. Okay. That's my forte for sure. And
awesome.
But my next thing is I really enjoy training the trainers. You know what I mean? I like getting in front of the group of leaders and teaching them how to be a better teacher, how to communicate martial arts in a better way. How do you communicate life lessons? We talk about self-discipline. How do you teach self-discipline? You can't just say we have self-discipline. How are you portraying that through your martial arts and through your life? Right. And so I like training the trainers. That's one of the things. The book thing is what I'm hoping will catalyst me to be more of a keynote speaker at places.
Great.
I believe I have something that can be brought to the table. I believe I have stories that I'm authentic, I'm raw, I have a sense of humor, and I can laugh at myself. I can tell you, how messed up I am and the steps I took not to be there. And so keynote speaking is something that I feel is my next direction in how to put my martial arts out there in a different way. How to bring my martial arts beyond the mat by speaking. That's really where I want to go. Tournaments are always going to be there. I can find a tournament every single weekend if I want to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to compete in 2023. I'm going to at least compete one time in my jiu-jitsu. It's something that I have to mark off. Now, I know myself. I say one time, but if I don't win, there'll be a second time. And there's going to be a time until I win that's going to happen. And so that's those as far as in the martial arts world, that I would say that's where I'm going next. I really want, and I don't know, I'd have to listen from people like you that's listened to me. I don't really know. I hear myself talking. I think I can move a room. Maybe I suck. I don't really know. So
you don't suck. I promise. You did very well at the speaking competition. You did very well.
Yeah,
I was engaged all the time with you.
Yeah, so it was. Those things are like. And I told Emilio, I said I'll have a hard time competing virtually anymore. Yeah. Unless I'm in person, I'm not sure I'd sign up. I don't know if I'd sign up for something virtually again. Yeah. I've done them twice, and both times they suck. I don't like it. Because I can't do what I do, right? Yeah. And I can't point to you, or I can't say, you know what I'm talking about, right? And people are going, yes, I know what you're talking about. Or I can't see the audience like nodding off and say, okay, I got it. We're just like fighting. I'm going to do a different angle now, right? Yes. And I'm going to change levels, and I'm going to go to the next set of techniques. And so, that's what I think that is my next tour. That's what I really, really, really want to do, to get people to call me and say, I'd like you to be our keynote speaker. I think that's going to be, I've dreamt about that, believe it or not. I used to be in some multi-level marketing businesses. I remember seeing the big wigs up on stage and moving thousands of people by their words, right?
Wow.
And I'm like, man, I want to do that, because even in those settings, I would break some bricks off to the side.
Yeah.
And I would make it on film every single time, because there's something about martial arts that people are attracted to.
Yeah.
And so I just think I can bring something to the table. And as far as what to end with, as far as words of wisdom, it's always good. People ask me about this, quite a bit on some of my philosophies. And I think this, and we've talked about some tournaments and some stuff like this and in martial arts things. So I think talking about winning is something that I think I'll end with. And when it comes to winning, winning is a special thing, and winning is not something everybody gets to do.
That's true.
So you may not win today, but you may win tomorrow, but you win never when you quit. You never win. True. So I tell my students, I said, listen, getting participation trophies and ribbons make you feel good for the second that you get them. They'll mean absolutely nothing to you in the future. Yeah. And you'll put them in a drawer and never look at them again. Because winning really is special. That's why everybody wants to win. True. That's why everybody wants the medals for first, second, or third, right? Because winning's special. It's a special thing. And when you're competing against a bunch of people and you're competing against yourself to be better than them, it's the one that's prepared to go in the ring. Yes. And the problem is, I tell everybody, just like the speaker competition for me, I've learned more from my failures than I've ever won, ever from my winning. Beautiful. But when I did win, I knew that it was a special thing, and that was something that it's going to stay with me forever, because I won, and that's what pushes me to the level. So I think I'll end with this, and I tell people this often, that you will learn from failures more than you learn from your wins, but you need to have your wins to continue being able to fail till you win all the time. And I think that's the way that's how I feel about, the failure and the winnings.
I love that. And the fact that you are so competitive, I can relate to that. I'm super competitive. I beat myself up if I don't win. It's just something I do. I haven't overcome that yet. It's a weakness, I guess. But I would like to say
it's definitely a sickness for sure.
I tell you, I'm sorry, but it's true. And then I wanted to say, from my point of view, if I had to go and compete as you are going to compete in that jiu-jitsu, if I'd have to lose, that would just spur me on to do another one, because I want to win. But on the other side with me, if I won, I would have to compete again because I want to win again. So I think that's going to be yours.
Winning's like tattoos. You can't just get one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's right. That's...
Oh, no, thank you so much for this wonderful time. Thank you I know it's late at night. You need your rest. You had a long day.
Oh, no, I'm all good. This is not nothing new. There's nothing new for me to be up at this time. Trust me. I'm all
That's
good.
great. No. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed our session, and looking forward to meeting everybody at the business boot camp. It's going to be amazing. I made that a mission. I said to myself, I don't have to, I could have attended virtually, but I want to be in the room with everyone, and I want to meet people, and can't wait to see Emilio and Daniela as well. So thank you for that. And to the audience, we see you in the next session. Make sure you follow Mark online. Make sure you connect with him, network with him, and let's cheer him on as he's really transforming society and bringing valuable morals and values to the children out there, because remember, they are the future. And with that, we'll see you in the next session. Thank you so much for joining.
Bye.